It is a surprising handshake and a potential unexpected alliance that we are witnessing. It has sparked significant reactions and raised numerous questions. I am referring to the growing closeness between Ukraine and Saudi Arabia. It happened 3 weeks ago when Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky was invited to a summit of the Arab League, hosted by Saudi Arabia. Zelensky's presence at the summit was unexpected, and it generated a lot of buzz. During the dinner, Zelensky had the opportunity to deliver a speech at the beginning of the summit, which is quite unprecedented. Interestingly, Russian President Vladimir Putin has never been granted such an honor. In his speech, Zelensky emphasized that certain Arab countries have been closely following the war in Ukraine. On the other hand, Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, the current leader of Saudi Arabia, also delivered a significant message. His country aims to play a mediating role in the conflict between Russia and Ukraine. In his speech, Zelensky emphasized that certain Arab countries have been closely following the war in Ukraine. This is not the first time that Saudi Arabia has positioned itself as a mediator or intermediary between Ukraine and Russia in an attempt to achieve peace. For instance, Saudi Arabia facilitated a prisoner exchange between Russia and Ukraine. Today, Zelensky wishes for Saudi Arabia to go much further. But before we delve into this closer, let's address why Zelensky's visit to the Arab League summit was so significant. Firstly, Zelensky found himself facing leaders who were either completely indifferent to the war in Ukraine or aligned with opposing sides. Today, the best example of this is Russia, and specifically, Syrian President Bashar al-Assad. Assad has always been a steadfast ally of Russia, thus distancing himself from Ukraine. By the way, it's worth noting that this summit marked the significant diplomatic return of Bashar al-Assad to the region, as he hadn't visited for 12 years. However, Zelensky's visit overshadowed his return. The Arab League summit held on May 19th is noteworthy, as it provides an influential platform for the Gulf petro-monarchies. Countries such as Qatar, the United Arab Emirates, and Saudi Arabia, all major oil exporters, have gained significant international prominence. These three nations, in particular, are not hesitant to distance themselves from their ties with other major powers, such as the United States. Speaking of oil, let's delve into the potential alliance in this context. The potential alliance between Saudi Arabia and Ukraine indirectly intersects with disagreements between Saudi Arabia and Russia regarding oil. Indeed, Saudi Arabia and Russia have different objectives when it comes to oil. Saudi Arabia aims to increase oil prices above $80 per barrel, which is the main unit of measurement for oil. To achieve this price increase, Saudi Arabia has announced a reduction in its daily oil production by 1 million barrels. Saudi Arabia is pursuing these actions because oil prices have been declining in recent months, which inevitably affects its revenue. As oil exports account for a significant portion of Saudi Arabia's economy, the country desires higher oil prices. Saudi Arabia needs more funds, and the higher the oil prices, the better it is for their financial situation. Currently, Saudi Arabia is seeking funding for its development plan known as Vision 2030, which includes prominent projects like NEOM and the Line. We have extensively discussed this topic, including a detailed video on my main YouTube channel. In summary, the objective is to increase oil prices, with Saudi Arabia on one side and Russia on the other. Both Saudi Arabia and Russia have the same objective of achieving success in the Ukrainian war and securing the necessary funding. Saudi Arabia aims to sell increasingly larger quantities of oil to finance its war efforts. However, a significant increase in supply can lead to a decline in prices. The greater the supply, the lower the prices tend to be. On the other hand, one might wonder why Russia, despite its success, doesn't follow Saudi Arabia's approach and raise prices to generate more revenue. The reason is that Russia is currently facing sanctions imposed by Western countries. These sanctions include a significant reduction in European purchases of Russian oil, which has a major impact on Russia's revenue. Additionally, there is a second sanction that sets a price cap of $60 for oil transported by sea from Russia to third-party countries. There has been a decline in sales due to a decrease in demand, particularly from European countries. Furthermore, the price of oil sales is capped at $60 per barrel. Consequently, in order to maintain their revenue levels, Russia is compelled to increase oil sales. This is necessary to generate income despite the challenging circumstances, including the ongoing war.
Saudi Arabia and Russia, both major global oil exporters, currently have two completely different visions or objectives. This could potentially pose a problem in the long run, and it's a situation that can be diplomatically exploited by President Zelensky of Ukraine. Zelensky wants Saudi Arabia to play a more significant role. Not just as a mediator as it currently does, but as a strong ally against Vladimir Putin. While Saudi Arabia has provided assistance to Ukraine, particularly in terms of humanitarian aid in October 2022, with a donation of $4 million, it is important to note that there is no real alliance between Ukraine and Saudi Arabia at this point. There is a certain level of rapprochement due to shared interests, primarily economic ones, but it is unlikely that Mohammed bin Salman will speak out more to support Ukraine.